Wyden serves as the unified trade and operating layer for banks and brokerages across Europe with some of the biggest entities on the planet. And they also just joined the Hashgraph Association. So today we're going to be talking about what Wyden builds, who it serves in the institutional digital asset space. Would love if we could kick off here maybe with an intro of yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm the founder of Wyden. This is not my first rodeo. I've done many things in my life. I used to be an Air Force pilot in my younger years, worked for the Swiss intelligence agency, did a number of startups. This is probably my sixth one. I ran a hedge fund here in Switzerland. We did automated the quantitative trading. Out of that time, the company evolved, originally more focused on the buy side, on systematic quantitative trading. We ventured into crypto in 2017. We signed our first bank in 2020. And now for the past 5-6 years, primarily focusing on the sell side, on the banking side with digital assets. So we provide basically, as you said, the operating layer for banks and brokers, the infrastructure that sits between the banks and the existing core banking systems and the global digital asset markets.
Well, hey, thanks for your service. I don't usually talk to ex-military. I'm was a Navy guy myself, so uh, I think you guys have probably had a really interesting past 24 months. I know that Switzerland has been a little bit further ahead as far as most jurisdictions are concerned, but can you talk about the infrastructure challenge that banks and brokers face connecting to trading, custody, core banking, and how Wyden is addressing it?
Yes, we have had a head start here in Switzerland with the Swiss Crypto Act, which was a perfect fit. We have a ton of banks here in Zurich where we're based. I think there is more banks than gas stations, as I like to say. Many of us here have worked at banks, and we had an early start. What are banks facing? This new ecosystem based on blockchains and digital assets that was built to replace the traditional banking rails, but that didn't happen. The banks are still here. Now the banks are adopting, and there is no perfect fit with the existing banking system. So there is quite a bit of hurdles. That the main one is that in traditional banking, the banking systems, they are the data master. They have the control. In digital assets, that's not the case. It's the blockchain. And this is the first time that banking systems have to rely on an outside system. And that is very hard. So what we are helping the banks is to operate a banking grade business that the bank can operate for digital assets. So it's the connectivity to all the venues. We're connected to like 70 venues today. It's on-chain movements, your pre-funding, your settlement, reconciliation, making sure that your books within the bank are in line with what you see on the blockchain, the integration with the core banking system, the integration with the custody system. We're seeing more and more banks now that have more than one banking system in place. It's all the operational procedures and the processes. And without this unifying layer, banks are bound to stitch together fragmented stacks, get a vendor solution here, get a vendor solution there. That results in a lot of operational risk. It's expensive, a lot of manual work, a lot of reconciliation breaks. And this is where we step in. So we provide them with a single integration into the digital asset space, connecting to all the venues, the various custody, sub-custody system, and automate everything in a unified way. Plus also giving the bank the double entry accounting ledger that they need to offer cryptos 24/7 to their customers, which is new. Banks have not done that. Trading of traditional assets has not been 24/7. Their banking systems are not built for the job.
I think when I was on your X just now, I see orchestration. And I think that that is maybe a key word within how all of this needs to shake out with actual adoption, because you have legacy systems that are, as you mentioned perfectly, there's this interpretation for crypto native people that it's everything's getting replaced. That's not what happened. Obviously, we have banks now and financial institutions adopting and navigating the areas of privacy that they need to navigate versus what comes onto public networks. So we need that orchestration layer, and it's awesome to see you guys are providing it. I think another thing that's interesting is we're starting to see more, I would say, collaboration across different networks, but also kind of like a practice in eliminating redundancy. And I think that you guys just joined the Hashgraph Association membership program, things like that. I think that all of these are things that help to eliminate, if somebody has a great solution, why build something from scratch again? Or maybe it's a networking exercise or whatever it is. Can you talk about joining the Hashgraph Association membership, what things like that in general mean in practice for you guys at Wyden?
Yeah, this is extremely important. All of us here in the space, we're building solutions. We have ideas. We build layer ones. We build trading systems. We build custody systems. But still, we're in a niche market. And our job in this industry is to bring this technology to the traditional financial system. And for this, we need to work together. We need to explain the banks and the brokers what the best solution, what the best vendor technologies are for their particular use case. So what you guys are doing, you bridge traditional finance and digital asset markets and bringing that all into standards-based system with security and compliance. That's exactly also what we're working on. Bring in the governance and the accountability. That's important. We need to become better at working together and being able to explain each other's solutions. When we pitch to banks, we often explain not just what we do, but how the various custody systems work, how we all integrate together. And that's often the question we get from the banks. How does it all fit together? These are usually questions that are not easy to answer, but for this, you really need to understand the entire ecosystem, how it all fits together, how the different technologies come together.
Yeah, and we've seen that, as you mentioned before, every bank, every institution, every individual that onboards into new technology, blockchain, distributed ledger, whatever, is going to use it in a different way, mainly because everybody has different needs. And that can be a range of different things, whether that's a jurisdictional thing or whether that's literally what the business does and how they would even use blockchain. So I would love to hear from you guys being at kind of that intersection. And again, I preface, I'm sure you guys have had a really interesting past couple of years. I'm always so surprised being in this space that it seems like we have more announcements on a daily basis in 2026 than we did on a monthly or a quarterly basis back in 2020.
Yeah.
But what is some of the momentum that stuck out to you guys within Wyden, whether it be your liquidity network, partnership activity, wherever you want to take it?
I mean, look, as I mentioned in the intro, we bet on the sell side, on the banks and brokers already 5 years ago. It took a little longer. Here in Switzerland today, over 50% of the banks have a digital asset offering. Ever since the MiCA regulation kicked off in Europe, Europe has really been taking off. And now the US was a little bit the late starter in this game, but now under the new regulation at the new administration, you guys really kicked in and there's huge momentum. For us, the last 12 months have been really pivotal. We signed 2 very large tier ones this year. I can't give you the name yet, but they're very big names. And I mean more than 50 million end customers. Today, we are serving banks that themselves serve over 250 million retail customers. So all of them can essentially buy and hold crypto. Number of liquidity networks and integrators that we connected to this year. We build about 2 to 3 connectors each year. EDX Markets, Falcon X were 2 of them. Of course, the Hashgraph Association, for us, that's a big announcement. And so for us, 2026 has been a very good year. If we look at the price of Bitcoin, it hasn't been all that exciting. But what we see is that there has been a little bit of a disconnect between the cyclic layer, right? The token prices, the ETF flows, and the structural layer, the infrastructure build out. And we're very happy to see that this is actually happening today. And in the early days, it was all about spot crypto, retail, buy, sell, deposit, withdraw. That's about it. And now I would say we're in phase 2, where tokenized assets assets and stablecoins are taking off. We have been talking about tokenized assets since 2017.
Sure.
Probably every year since then, I've seen an announcement that this is the year of tokenized assets. And I say it again in 2026, but this time I think it is. Now, the momentum, the announcements you're seeing around tokenized assets and stablecoins are bigger than spot crypto use cases.
Yeah, I'm glad that you say tokenization has been talked about and kind of been around. And one of the things that sticks out to me is I think about when I first came into this space, like around 2017-ish, 2016, tokenization of real estate was being talked all the way back then. That was kind of and everybody's like, it's going to happen. Now we see every major entity on the planet throwing a dart and seeing what sticks for 2030 or 2035 because everybody has estimates. And it's really interesting because it does feel like something has shifted. What are you excited about for Wyden's standpoint or the broader industry through this year so that you guys can help make it happen?
Well, look, I'm very excited about these big announcements from the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, what these guys are building in cooperation with partnerships from our industry. That's big news, right? That's really what we've been waiting for these big traditional giants to become active. And it'll be very interesting to see what they are up to. It seems that stable coins are really becoming the means of payment. Big institutions realize that this is the way to go for T+0 settlement, 24/7 collateral management. One thing that is becoming clear when we talk about on-chain cash, that it isn't resolving into just one thing, right? It's stablecoins, it's tokenized deposits, it's wholesale CBDC, it's tokenized money markets, and they will coexist. And we as an industry need to make sure that our settlement capabilities, our settlement orchestration, or everything working towards T+0 is supporting all these various options that we have today. So personally, what I'm excited about is to roll out what we have built for spot crypto. And we've been doing this for banks since 2020, that we're now rolling this out to tokenized securities where stablecoins and tokenized deposits and all these other variations are the cash leg. We're not just trading Bitcoin against dollar, but we're really trading it against whatever represents the dollar or the euro underneath.
One of the things it's really about is kind of the options and user choice, whoever that user may be. I think as tokenization occurs, it's not going to be so granular as I have to use USD to pay for whatever. I'm going to have this basket of assets that have all been tokenized. It's all going to be liquid, and I can essentially use that value however I see fit because it is kind of about choice. I really think it's awesome to be able to interview people like you and all the work that you guys are doing at Wyden. Let me make sure I share screen here so that people can go and follow you guys where you guys are at.
It's Wyden.io. It's where you find us.
All right. For those of you guys that want to learn more, go to Wyden.io, the institutional trading platform for digital assets, unified trading and operating layer. And as Andy mentioned, a lot of this is about orchestration. So you can definitely read this graphic right here, pretty much gives you the flywheel effect that you would want to see for kind of the life cycle of digital asset trade management. Wyden_IO on X. Huge shout out to the Hashgraph Association for helping to make these podcasts possible. Hashgraph.swiss and at @the_Hashgraph. Give me a follow at IOV_OWL, Genfinity at Genfinity. There will likely be an article on Wyden right here. And the membership program for the Hashgraph Association, you can check out at membership.hashgraph.swiss. Well, I told you that this would be painless, Andy, and or hopefully. But really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing all the innovation come out through the remainder of the year.
Sounds good. Thank you.